This show is brought to you by Sanji and Harland Productions. Thanks for watching Season 2 of Cooking with Sanji. If you would like to watch Season 1, then please click an episode.
Oh man, what a hell of a trip that was, good God. But it was worth it though. What's up, everybody? Good to see you all again. We're finally back doing Cooking with Sanji stuff, it looks like, so hooray for us. I know it's been a while, since the last episode. That was way back at Christmas time. Actually, it was exactly on Christmas Day that we did stuff, filming and whatnot. But yeah, the whole reason behind that is just that I've had a lot of stuff on my mind lately. Nothing like, you know, super big, just like life plans, like where am I going to go next since I've graduated, I have my degree and whatnot. What am I going to do with my current job status? Am I going to move up if I really want to, of course, but that's a whole other thing entirely. But just stuff like that. It's kind of been getting in my mind, and just, you know, I've never had a whole lot of time to really think out full episodes or new ones just yet, but I figured it was high time to, because it's been like, what, about 5 months now, I'd say, so it's about high time I got something new going on. You're probably wondering what these potatoes are for right here. Well, it actually has something to do with our dish for today that we're going to be doing. It's kind of a throwback, actually, to the very first episode that we did, which was Japanese-style curry. Except this time we're going to do something a little bit different. This is what I was talking about. This is the whole reason for this new episode that we're doing right now. Back when we did the first episode, I used pre-made curry blocks for the curry, and it's completely acceptable, you know, it's fine. Like I was saying, people in Japan do use this. And people commented on the episode, they're like, this is a pretty good episode, but would Sanji really use pre-made curry blocks like this? And I commented back, I was like, well, I understand your concern, but let me assure you it's completely valid to use this. You know, people in Japan, they use it as well. And, you know, that was that for a while. And then over the last few months, I was thinking about it, and I finally came to a conclusion that Sanji would not, you know, use something like that probably. He'd be a real cool guy, make his own curry powder from scratch, or, you know, even just pre-made curry powder, just making everything from scratch. You know, that's the whole emphasis that we're going to be focusing on today, is from scratch. And then for the tools of the trade, just a couple of frying pans, really, for the most part, a smaller one, and a bigger one like this. You could also use a big pot if you wanted to, you know, something like that, or as long as it has a lid to it. That's the most important factor, because it has to sit for a while to steep and steam and cook the vegetables and whatnot. Rubber-headed spatula is always good, and a whisk like this, which has the little separated bits, like particularly like this one. It's really good in certain situations, or even just using the typical kind of dome-shaped one is also perfectly acceptable. So whatever catches your fancy. But I suppose without further ado, we'll get started with our scratch-made curry recipe. Alright, let's get started here. So, I think I was mentioning before about the whole scratch-made thing with the our curry. I'm going to go through all these different spices I have here, which is to make your own curry powder completely from scratch. But if you wanted to, you could always just use the store-bought kind of curry powder, completely acceptable as well. Several different brands, kind of pricey, like about $9 or $10, I think, but you know, it's got a good flavor to it, lasts quite a bit. My recipe right here, I've been perfecting it for the last few months, and I got it down just right, so it's just about the same as this, like in flavor and whatnot. Pretty dang good. So I'll teach you guys how to make that first, just to, you know, in case you want to try it at home and impress the ladies or your friends or what have you. So if you're we're gonna be working with lots of I guess you could say raw seeds and spices and such, like whole cumin seeds. If you're gonna be doing stuff like that to grind them down, you can use a coffee grinder, but it's a bit of a hassle to clean that up after, you know, it's all said and done. So what I prefer is using a good old pestle and mortar. I'm sure you've probably seen some of these before, maybe like in TV shows, history classes. I know a lot of like alchemy and stuff was done with stuff like this, but it's a really good thing to have when you're working with fresh spices and seeds and whatnot. We'll set that aside for that's going to be our primary tool for later. But yeah, for our spices that I have here for the spice mixture, I'm going to be using some whole cumin seeds, whole coriander seeds, some fennel seed, ground ginger, some red pepper, also ground. Well, these are all typically ground, of course, except for the whole seeds. Some turmeric, a little bit of clove, some garlic powder, and that's about it, actually. A little bit of black pepper, too, of course, goes well in there. So the first key thing is to measure out our seeds, because we're going to, well, these ones primarily, the fennel, coriander, and cumin, we're going to measure these out first. I'm going to toast them in the smaller frying pan here to really get the flavors to come out. It's a very common practice when you're working with stuff like this, just in general. So overall, measurements I have down. Oh, and before I begin too, I should say that I have just kind of a method, an order of operations when it comes to stuff like this, because as I was trying to perfect the recipe, I found out that certain seeds, such as the fennel ones, will take a long time to kind of toast and get their flavors out, whereas the cumin takes a lot shorter. And by the time that, like say, the fennel gets to the perfect toastiness, this is going to be burned. So we'll add these in steps within increments of like about 10 seconds or so. But typically, I should get this over here. Well, actually, no. You turn your frying pan on first and get it on about medium-high heat or so. Let that sit for a little bit. And the measurements that I have here for the fennel seeds is about 1/4 of a teaspoon. Each line pretty well, just toss it in there. And by the time we get over here, measure out the coriander and the other ones, that should be about ready to, the 10 seconds that I mentioned before should be about done. So I'll also be using about 1/4 of a teaspoon of coriander seed for this. Make sure to kind of move it around as well, so it doesn't quite burn, or that the possibility of it burning decreases drastically. We'll put the coriander seeds in there, wait about 10 seconds. And then for the cumin, there's a bit more of that, and there's about 3/4 of a teaspoon, so 3 of these smaller ones. I'll give those a few more seconds, I suppose. You'll be able to tell too when it's about time, because you can really smell the aromatics coming up, and it really does drastically change the overall flavor of the spices and the seeds at the end of it all. It's a really good step to do. This would be about good. I'm going to turn it up a tiny little bit more. And then we're going to do 1, 2, and 3/4. I'm just going to toss this around here. Like I said, you'll be able to smell it for sure when it's about ready, when it's toasted just right. If you see it smoking a little bit too, don't be alarmed. A little bit of smoke is okay. If it starts really, filling up your whole kitchen, though, it's a bit of a problem at that point. Might want to get out of the kitchen, or, get your fire extinguisher out. I'm kind of smelling them getting toasty right about now. Give it a few more seconds maybe. You'll actually be able to see them kind of darken in color, especially the cumin. Oh, there's a little bit of smoke going on there. But yeah, the cumin seeds will darken a little bit. And that's how you know that's about ready to get them off of the burner. Such a good smell, I gotta say. Nothing quite like fresh toasting your own spices and seeds. That should be about right for now. We'll turn that off. Everything from our pan, it's starting to smoke now, into our mortar here. Wash this out slightly, or just cool it off for the most part. But we will be using that a little bit later, so set this off to the side for now. Okay, so we have all of our toasted good seeds in here, nice and toasty, flavorful, a lot better than they were before. Just take your little implement right here and just go to town on it. I like to use if you're going to do something like grinding your own stuff like this, I prefer to use a circular motion, of course. Some of it might fly out once in a while, but it's not a big deal, just as long as it doesn't all fly out. But just go around in a circle a few times. You'll be able to feel it cracking under the pressure. You'll be able to smell it for sure. If you could smell it when it was toasting before, this is when it really starts to come out. But just go around a few times. Make sure the majority of it is all nice and ground up. And you may be asking too, or wondering, couldn't I just buy these, at least these 3 pre-ground? As far as I know, you can, but you know, there's a bit more value to, like I said, doing it yourself at home. I know for a fact that trying to toast something that's just like a powder like this in a frying pan, I'm pretty sure it can be done, but it's a lot more risky because by that point, everything is just so granulated and small that if you apply enough heat to it, it's just going to probably burn and, you know, smoke up at the end. So if you're going to work with stuff like this, it's better to just buy it whole and then do it yourself at home. Plus, I think I believe the pre-ground stuff is usually a bit more pricey. It's a common thing when you're buying ingredients in general too, like pre-cut vegetables or deboned chicken and stuff like that. It's the added value of having part of the work already done for you. That's cut out of your work cycle when you're preparing a meal. So of course that factors into the final cost of everything too. So typically the whole stuff like this will be a little bit less. Okay, that's about right for our seeds right now. A good powdery consistency, as you can see. It's really starting to smell really good right now. So with that out of the way, oops, once you get the lid back on, set those aside. We're going to move on to our other spices. Start out with a little bit of ground up ginger here. About 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground ginger is going to go into this. Turmeric, I'm going to do 3/4 of a teaspoon of this. It's really earthy, kind of smells like dirt or clay almost. But you might be wondering, why would you put that in a dish? That sounds ludicrous. Like I said, it kind of smells that way, but once you actually put it in there and it gets, it's been in the food for a while and it melts with everything else, it's pretty nice. It's got a good warm kind of smell to it, a warm flavor, if you will. So a little bit of cloves, ground cloves. For this, really just a pinch, or far less than half of a 1/4 of a teaspoon of this. A little goes a long way, but it does add a good dimension of flavor to the final curry powder. And the same goes for the red pepper as well. This stuff is extremely strong. I didn't put, well, no, I'm not going to lie. I did put a bit too much in there. The first time I was getting the measurements down from my curry powder recipe right here, and whew, it almost blew me away. It was good, but a little bit too strong even for me. But okay, so we got everything in our mortar and pestle here, just with the other ground up stuff, and just kind of do the same thing. Just grind it. It's already ground, but just mix it all together with the mortar. And once you do that, you always see the entire, the actual curry powder start to come together. The yellow from the turmeric, which is the characteristic, yellow color of the curry powder, really starts to come out. And you do want to grind it a little bit too, just to help release the oils. Because stuff that's pre-ground, it's almost just as good as grinding your own stuff, but it kind of tends to stagnate a little bit, not in like necessarily super bad way, but you kind of need to kind of jump start the oils because it's been sitting around already pre-ground for a long time. Because as soon as you grind stuff like this up, that's when it's primed and ready to use. That's when the oils and the flavors are at their peak. So once you do that, they're never going to quite be as strong or as potent as they were when they were whole and first ground. So just to kind of get a little bit more of a kickstart. Also important is the garlic powder. For this, I believe, yeah, it works out to about 1/4 or a little bit less than 1/4 of a teaspoon. I kind of tend to go with a little bit less because it's kind of strong stuff, but a little bit of garlic and just about everything helps it taste a little bit better in the end. Just work that in there though with the rest of it. It takes super long. Oh, it's really starting to smell like the pre-made stuff now. And a little bit of black pepper as well. If I can finagle it. Not a whole lot, just a couple grinds should do it. Just whatever tickles your fancy, and a tiny little bit of salt for right now. We're gonna add some more as the dish progresses. So now we've got our curry powder all ground up here, nice and fresh from scratch. We're gonna start doing the most crucial part of the curry recipe, which is the curry roux. And for those of you who don't know, a roux is a substance that's typically used to thicken soups and stews, stuff like curry as well. And it's just a simple mixture of butter or oil, typically vegetable oil, and just some flour. I typically prefer to use butter when I do something like this, but we're going to try using some vegetable oil instead today. And we're going to start off by adding about a tablespoon or so of oil to our frying pan. That should be about enough. And I'll turn our heat up to about medium-high or so. Looks like our oil's getting heated up nicely here, kind of shimmering a little bit. A little less viscous, I should say. And for our curry powder, we're going to add about a tablespoon of that into here. That's actually just about what we have, actually, is a tablespoon. So, whoa, careful there. I'll turn it down a little bit just to be safe. I don't want hot oil spattering in my face again. It has happened before. Luckily not in my eye, and it does hurt, but, you know, you get past it. Luckily it didn't scar up at all, which, you know, pretty thankful for that. I've seen some really bad stuff happen in my workplace and, you know, other culinary themed places, workplaces. Some really bad oil burns out there. So if you're gonna work with oil, anything like that, just be careful. Trust me, I've got a few burns of myself from other things. Okay. Toss this in the oil a little bit just to kind of spread it around and get it incorporated. Might see it start to change color a little bit, start to get a little bit brown. It's not a bad thing, but don't let it go too far because you're gonna end up burning everything in there. It's just gonna turn, it's just gonna taste just, you know, kind of like almost charcoal, which it's not what we want our curry tasting like, obviously. So this is about good, I'd say. Just take it off the burner entirely if you want to, or turn it off. Do both. And as for our flour measurements, I've worked this out pretty well. It's going to be about, for a small serving like this, or for a small part like this, we're going to use about 2 teaspoons of flour. I already made some roux a little bit earlier, which altogether adds up to about 5 or 6 teaspoons of flour. We'll just use 2 for right now, seems to be about right. As you can see, it starts to foam up a little bit there. If you're gonna do something like this, a whisk is okay, but I found lately that when I put the flour in there, it tends to kind of clump up a little bit unless you like sift it in there, which you can do that. It's a little bit tedious though. I find it a lot easier to just press it down with a spatula like this to break up the clumps. Because if you don't do that, then it ends up going into your curry or your liquid later, and it kind of turns into kind of a thick, kind of lumpy gravy, I should say. Which, while not the worst thing in the world, it's certainly not the most pleasant either. So, just press down on that, kind of break them up a little bit more. And you can see a little more flour, I guess, just a touch. Actually, my heat's turned off. That's not a good thing either. That's about right. And there we go. We want a consistency that's a little bit thick, a little bit soupy-ish. This is just about right, I'd say. Just gonna press those flour clumps out of there. And the other important part of this too is that you want to cook it just long enough to kind of cook out the starchy, kind of floury flavor. Because if you don't do that, it kind of tends to dominate the whatever you put it into a little bit. I shouldn't say dominate, but there's definitely kind of a taste of that in there. It's not the best taste in the world. It's not the worst, but it's like, it just tastes like flour. I'm just going to be eating flour soup or flour stew. And what fun is that, Especially after we just ground up all these nice spices and all that. This looks pretty good, I think. And we're just going to let that sit off to the side for right now and just let it cool down. That's also another key factor when you're working with roux like this, is that if you're going to add roux to a hot soup or stew, you want to make sure the roux is cooled down first. Never add hot roux to a hot liquid. It's also vice versa. If you're going to add if you're adding it to a cold liquid, then hot roux is fine. But never add hot roux to hot liquid because it tends to spatter up like that. And once again, there's a danger of that, of having it hit your arms or your, God forbid, your face or your eyes. So just to be safe, that's it for about 5 to 10 minutes or so. And at that time, we're going to work on prepping our other ingredients, such as our vegetables. So let's get right to that.
Cooking with Sanji will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hello, welcome to SenchiCon Video Update. I'm your host, David Sullivan. Join me in meeting our guests, Caitlin Glass, Natalie Hoover, and Cyanide and Happiness. SenchiCon is coming up fast, September 27th and 28th. Are you ready? Get your tickets now by going to our website at senchicon.com. Thanks for watching this video update. See you in the next one.
Now introducing the Senchi Power Drink. 99% electrolytes, 1% water. Everlasting, never thirst quenching power drink. Senchi Power. Grab yours today.
Ninja, ninja, ninja! Ninjas are everywhere! Hiding ninja, running ninja, flipping ninja, ninjas on the rocks, tea party ninjas, tree jumping ninja, sleeping ninja, compensating ninja, lifelike ninjas in slow motion.
Alright, so I took the liberty of pre-cutting my vegetables as usual here. About 2 potatoes, 2 medium-sized carrots, just, good little chunks like that. Minced up some onion, of course. And then I'm going to do the chicken right now. I already did one of them, the chicken thighs, a little bit earlier. But I'll just show you guys how I handle doing stuff like this, because it's not the hardest thing in the world, but there's kind of a little bit of a trick to it, to de-skinning and deboning. It's nice information to have, And I especially like to save the skin and bones for stuff that I do later, because say for like the skin or something, the skin or the fat, I like to put that in a frying pan, get it nice and hot and just render the fat down to get that chicken grease, and use that for doing stuff like fried rice, instead of just plain old regular oil or what have you, some chicken flavored, grease, fat, whatever, stuff like that. It's really good in there because it has a nice flavor. And as for the bones, I like to roast those in the oven for about 30-35 minutes or so, until they're nice and golden brown, and then toss them into a pot with some cold water and some mirepoix, a few other spices like some thyme or some rosemary maybe, and just boil that down and make my own chicken stock, It's always cool. That's what I like. One of the things I like about cooking is being able to take ingredients like this, take them home and deconstruct them yourself, and then use the other parts for something else. It's a really nice. It's nice to have that the ability to do that. So I'll just save that stuff for later. But yeah, we have the chicken cubed up right here. It's about two chicken thighs. I like the texture and the flavor a bit better than using breast meat, because breast meat tends to dry out a bit more when you're cooking it. Especially since we have to cook this all the way through and kind of, we have to sear the outside and cook the inside as well. And chicken breast tends to get a bit more dry when you do it like that. So chicken thigh is the way to go. You can always buy it without the skin and such, but it's all up to personal preference. And if you want to actually spend your time getting in there and deboning and de-skinning, so it's all up to you. Okay, so we're finally going to get to the big part here, which is putting everything together into our little pan here, and we're going to make some good old-fashioned curry. So what we need to do first, we're going to sweat our onions, which is typical practice. And just put a little bit of again, oil or butter, whatever your preference is. Another tablespoon or so of oil is a good amount to start with. Get that heated up. So it's like our oil's getting just to the right temperature. It's starting to smoke a little bit actually. I'm going to turn that down. We don't want to burn our onions, we just want to sweat them nice and slow. Should be good. Spatula ready. Ooh. Okay. That's about right. Okay. And for the amount of onion that I used, it's really up to personal preference. I'm not a huge fan of onions, but I've gotten better in the past few years. So whatever whatever amount you would like in there is good. I'd say it's a little more than a tablespoon of onion. Just want to toss it in there and just make it nice and tender, sweat it out a bit. Make sure it's nice and golden colored. That should be okay, friend. It's going to continue to cook as we're going through the recipe. The next part is the chicken. It's a very important fact that we cook this all the way. Because nothing with raw chicken is, it can be a dangerous thing. So always make sure to cook your chicken properly. It's one of the key factors when you're handling stuff like this. Crank up the heat just a tiny little bit. You can see it starting to change color on the outside there. It's getting seared up, which is what we want exactly, and then some. So. A bit of a side note, some of you may be noticing that this episode's a little bit different in that we're not doing pre-scripted stuff as it would seem. I'm kind of just saying what comes to mind. And that's one of the new things we're trying out with the new season of the cooking show. I'm just going to see how it goes with the first one at least. If you guys like it, let me know. The chicken's just about ready, I should say. I'd say so. Always make sure to check your temperature on your stove there. Keep it about medium or so, maybe medium high, but as long as nothing's burning in there. We'll add our vegetables next. And for the vegetables, ultimately what we want is to make sure they're nice and tender, not mushy obviously, but what a good cooked potato or carrot would taste like. So that obviously is going to take a while, but for the time being, we just want to put the carrots and potatoes in there, just kind of get the outside part cooked, just to get them a head start. Because we're going to be adding some chicken broth to this in a second, and it's going to sit and simmer for about around 10 minutes or so. Of course, you want to add in a little bit of salt as well, not only just for seasoning. We're going to add some more in later. It's actually really a crucial thing for the final product, but when you're sweating out vegetables and stuff like this, it's nice to put the salt in there to help leach out the moisture. Helps it cook a little bit faster and more evenly too. And of course, as I just said, it helps season it as well. So just a little bit of salt goes a long way. Looking about right, I'd say. I'm gonna turn the heat down temporarily. And we're gonna add in our chicken broth. And do about a cup of that. That's about right. Just gonna pour that in there. And we're gonna crank the heat back up to all the way. Because what we want to do at this point is bring everything to a, not quite a boil, but just make sure everything is simmering. And once it gets to that part, we're gonna cover it up with the lid there and let it sit for several minutes. And like I said, it's gonna get everything in there nice and tender. And ready for the final procedure, or final part of the procedure, I should say, which is where the true essence of the curry will come through. This is about what we're looking for right here, just a little bit of a simmer. So we're gonna cover it up now, and make sure to turn the heat to pretty much about low, maybe not quite all the way, but pretty close to it. And we're gonna set our timer here, about 10 minutes or so. And by the time we come back, everything's gonna be nice and tender and ready for the final part in our recipe. All right, looks like our timer's up here. Oh, there we go, yeah. Man. Basically just kind of smells like chicken soup right now, which, that's fine. I love chicken soup, but we're gonna add something else to it, obviously. But this is what we're looking for. Everything's nice and tender. There's a moment of truth now. We're gonna crank the heat up again. We don't want it to overboil too much, but this is the part we're gonna add the curry roux that we made. and by heating it up to near boiling, it's gonna activate the flour granules in the roux, which, as I mentioned before, actually thickens the dish that you're making. It's about good for right there. So get a nice spatula out, and make sure you get every last bit of your roux into there. This is exactly the equivalent of using the curry blocks for pre-made stuff. Just that we made it ourselves. And we know what went into it. It's probably a lot healthier. Well, I know for a fact it's a lot healthier too. It's one of the best parts about cooking in general is that you yourself know what's going into your dish. And you can already see it's thickening up nicely there. Look at that. I can smell it too. Oh my gosh. It's probably one of the best parts about making this dish is just seeing it all come together. Not just the smell of it, but actually watching it thicken up. And it's like, man, I did that. But still kind of keep it at least at medium low. Because it's at least thickened up quite a bit. So while that's happening, we're going to add in the other ingredients I was talking about earlier, such as our soy sauce, which I need a whole lot, about no more than a tablespoon, I'd say at least. That. Same for the honey, about a tablespoon of that, a little bit less, depending. Yeah, it may sound a little bit weird, but it really adds a good kind of nice sweetness, and you can kind of taste the honey flavor in there as well. It's pretty nice. And I got the sriracha as well. Again, you don't want a whole lot in there. About a teaspoon or so. That's about right. Swap out our spatula over here for our whisk. And of course, an important factor is to, when applicable, always make sure to taste your product. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit more. Doesn't scald my mouth, hopefully. But that's perfect. Damn near perfect, I should say. This is also the point where you want to add in some more salt to it, because, as I was mentioning before, a little bit goes a long way. But the finished curry right here does require a good pinch of salt to it to really help draw out the flavors, because that's the primary factor of using salt, is to help season things. And with this dish, it can really be the difference between a pretty good curry and the best curry you've ever had in your life. And I am not trying to exaggerate that at all. It really does make a big difference. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, this is as far as we're going to get here. This is our finished from scratch curry, Japanese style curry. Oh, and of course, I almost forgot to mention too, the biggest factor, or another really big factor, some steamed rice to go with that as well. You can prepare it well in advance. Keeping your rice cooker like this, you'll keep it nice and warm. Give yourself a pretty good portion. As I said, this curry recipe, the amount is about 2 to 3 small servings. Again, depending on how much each person can eat, or how much you yourself can eat. It's always good. It's always okay if you just want to save the leftovers for later. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, make sure to turn the heat down as well, because you don't want to burn your finished product, which has happened before. It's not nice. Just gonna ladle the curry right over that nice steamed rice there. A little bit of a mess on the side of the bowl, but it's okay. Yeah. And a little more of that sauce in there. That's like the main part. And there we have it. Fresh, scratch-made curry. Hopefully this will redeem myself from my prior transgressions of using pre-made curry blocks. So if there's any hard feelings about that out there, I hope this kind of settles the score. Oh man. It's always good having a dish turn out just right, just as you envisioned it, and this is a good example of that. As I said before, it tastes just about the same as the prepackaged stuff, but just knowing that you made it yourself with your own hard work and not literal sweat, blood, and tears. Hopefully no tears, cooking's a good thing. But it's just nice to be able to come home and do this yourself and apply yourself to something like this. So, and it's good to share it with friends. So that's the best part about cooking for me, anyway. But enough with that. That's our episode for this month. Thanks again for all your support, guys. I know you were very adamant about me coming back and doing some more episodes. And again, I feel really bad about making everybody wait this long. Just had some other stuff in the way. But from this point on, hopefully we're going to be churning out more episodes on a monthly basis for who knows how long, really. Just depends how much people like the new format, which again, by the way, if you guys do enjoy my new format with me just kind of going through and just saying what's on my mind while keeping with the main point of the cooking itself, let us know in the comments. Give us a like, let us know, because we read those and we take them to heart. And if you don't like it as much, well, we tried with this one. If you don't like it, we'll definitely try and go back to the old formula and make it so everybody, well, not everybody's going to enjoy it, unfortunately. I realize that. If you don't like it for whatever reason, then I can't do anything about that. But for those who do enjoy it, give us your feedback, because we take that to heart and we listen. So we'd appreciate that. Oh, also, by the way, if you're wondering about this bag that I had earlier, there is kind of a story behind this. We'll put the video link in the description below. But this was actually for a teaser trailer, the trailer that we did for the new season of Cooking with Sanji, with this being our first episode. But that was filmed a few weeks back, and it kind of shows off one of my new Sanji One Piece costumes. And being a cosplayer, it's always good to show that stuff off, not in a conceited way, but I like people to see my work. So if you want to give that a like, watch that and give it a like, I appreciate that. It'd be nice. And of course, another big thing, SenchiCon, once again this year, Egan Center, downtown Anchorage, September 27th to the 28th this year. Tickets are online at the SenchiCon website. As far as I know, it's about the only outlet for right now, but SenchiCon themselves will be putting out more news on that as it comes out. So, yeah, that's about it for now, guys. Once again, it's good to be back. Bon appetit. Bon appetit. Itadakimasu. Happy cooking, and hope to see you guys again next month. So take care, guys.